Tyler, are we doing anything with Dykes? I know it's a different attorney.
What?
Dykes, I know it's a different attorney. Haven't seen anyone else.
I'm gonna wait till the end and
See if
probably
they come.
ask that it be bound
Okay.
over. Same thing with, probably gonna be the same thing with Cotta.
Okay,
Kata, because
Right.
I don't see him.
Okay.
But I'm gonna call Washburn next.
okay.
State v. Joshua Washburn. State call Lieutenant Johnson to the stand.
Please state your name for the record.
Brian Johnson.
Do you swear testimony you're about to provide is truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Please answer any questions.
All right, investigator or lieutenant? Captain. Captain. Yeah, I'll take your report. Captain Johnson.
We're not too big on time.
All right, tell me this. So we've got 4 warrants here. 2025 A06-104-00-0015, which is breach of peace, aggravated in nature. Warrant ending in 16, which is resisting arrest, A. And then we have warrant ending in 17, malicious injury to personal property, 2,000 or less. And malicious injury to personal property, warrant number 18. Could you tell this court the facts and circumstances that led to this warrant?
Yes, sir. Please report. On Monday, February the 10th, 2025, it's Wicked General Sessions, beginning Wicked General Sessions Court at the Barnwell County Courthouse. I went to the courthouse to assist with security. I had 2 guys that were on the front porch post. Yeah. I don't think it ever worked, the front porch. So I went up there to brief them, and they told me that I pulled them aside to brief them. Corporal Gant came up and said that Mr. Washington was outside with a ballistic vest on.
What's up? Is it open?
9 o'clock. Good night.
We got Jay Brown. And we got Jay Strickler. Yeah, they ain't opening until 9 o'clock, folks.
So far. I'm from Ohio.
I am too.
So I'm used to, you're more used to the city.
Yes.
Occasionally we get real hot in those buildings and smoke out. I'm from
Where at in Ohio?
Dayton.
Dayton, I'm from Cleveland area. So Cleveland, Akron area.
Yeah.
But I've been to Dayton. I live in Lincoln.
So yeah, we're here in Barnwell, South Carolina, folks.
Was there for the long time. Moved around a little bit later and there. I don't remember this half of the place anymore.
You're in South Carolina?
No, Ohio, there or something.
Oh, North Carolina.
Did the trailer parks over there for a little bit. And,
Stupid guy. You see this, folks? Goes against Article 1, Section 9, South Carolina Constitution.
never
Makes it unconstitutional.
personally. I was around.
Which again, that's Article 6, Clause 2 and 3 of the United States Constitution, which makes their oath of office void.
I think he was serving and then nearby picked up and everything and ended up landing on Brady.
They asked me to be here.
There was a question whether or not he could bring it forward. I contacted band staff and advised the ballistic tests weren't allowed for our rules. And that he had video cameras, tablets, whatever. So I went outside and asked Mr. Washburn to step over to the side of the porch, away from everybody, so in order not to embarrass him, and advised him that he couldn't come in the courthouse with the bulletproof vest on for security reasons, and that he couldn't bring his tablet in and video inside the courtroom. Mr. Washburn became belligerent, and I still need to talk to the guy, so we just went to go back in the courtroom.
All I did was wear a mask on Halloween, folks. That's it.
He's gonna call you?
First time they ever had somebody flex their muscle on the Constitution, probably. Not used to somebody bringing up them articles.
Like that for so long in this country.
Mhm.
People just don't know the law.
They want it like that. The Constitution was written in a way that normal folk can understand it. They try to come up with this legal mumbo
It's
jumbo.
supposed to be accessible to all.
Exactly. 14th Amendment equal protections. You're innocent until proven guilty, everybody. So make sure you flex every single one of your God-given unalienable rights.
I want to know how some illiterate homeless man is supposed to get a hold of the
Well, exactly.
law
How
here.
and how are they supposed to dress appropriately for court?
Yeah.
That's not equal access to the courts. That's discrimination. He's out here just like us, folks. I don't know who he is, but we'll find out.
Like I know people here who could barely read in high school.
Yeah, if anybody knows who this guy is, I haven't asked him yet, just let us know. He doesn't have to tell me who he is, but we'll find out. Yeah, it's general session, yeah.
They gonna just call you or?
I have no idea, Bo. I just got a letter, they says be here at the 10th, or we'll arrest you. So I'm here under duress and threat of arrest.
I ain't even get no letter.
You hear this, folks? That's not equal protection under the law. You hear this, folks? That's not equal protection.
I was in jail, and then my people were calling the defender and shit, and they said they heard I got court on the son.
Heard.
And then I called the
You hear this, folks?
what they call the clerk of goddamn court.
Yeah, clerk of court.
I'm calling the clerk of court, trying to get my court date. She's like, I don't know.
Are you-
I'm looking like, what the fuck?
And we are live streaming, folks. Do you hear what are they doing down here in Barnwell, South Carolina? They think they're slick, yo.
When we did that, Mr. Washburn stepped up inside the court, like, wanting to come in, and he was right there at the threshold. Deputy Brown told him, Corporal Brown told him that the court was not open, and he stepped back, and had physically pushed Mr. Washburn back outside so he could close the door. Mr. Washburn became extremely belligerent at that point, shouting all kinds of stuff, I can get this on the video, and then Brown was able to shut the door.
They think they're slick, huh?
You can't worry about it on.
Oh, I can. It's perfectly legal. This is Second Amendment.
Then you need to
It's a
talk to
Second
your
Amendment.
attorney.
I am my own attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. How
You're
about
not
that?
coming in with a bitch.
But I will.
No,
Are you going to block my right to freedom of the press inside the courtroom? Did you swear an oath to the Constitution, sir? Are you violating my oath? Are you violating my oath?
Mr. Washburn continued to pull on the door to try to open it, and we didn't have the key to lock at that point. So Brown had to hold the door shut while Mr. Washburn continued to try it. At that point, Washburn started using F words. It got really bad, so I told the guys, we're just going to go ahead and arrest him and calm things down. We're trying to get the court started, and that's what we did. We went outside. Mr. Washburn, I grabbed him, he broke away from me, and Brown got him, and Brown and Strickler took him to the ground because he was resisting. At some point, Washburn knocked both officers' body cams off. One went flying over the bushes outside.
Come on, guys.
Huh? Did you swear an oath to the Constitution? Are you going to violate my oath today? Are you going to violate me today? Is that what's going on here, sir?
Step back.
Don't fucking push me, bitch. You ain't shit. You just fucking violated me again, motherfucker, on film. You just fucking assaulted me, bitch. On fucking film, live stream. You're in my fucking courthouse. Mine. You just fucking assaulted me. You just assaulted me. What's your fucking name? Huh? What's your fucking name? Huh? That man just assaulted me in your presence. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. This is illegal. 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 You'll calm down. You'll calm down. You being unlawful? This is unlawful. This is unlawful. This is unlawful. What's your wrong? What's your wrong? What's your wrong? What's your wrong? What's your wrong?
He is resisting.
What's your wrong?
Quit interfering or you...
What's your wrong?
Y'all boys ain't shit. Y'all boys ain't shit. We have freedom of speech. We can say whatever we want. Y'all boys ain't shit.
What are y'all doing?
Hey, make sure we ain't lock you up, sue the shit out of us.
I'm going to.
We can say whatever we want. Freedom of speech. Exactly. I'm talking about what.
You cannot curse in court.
What? You can't freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, you can't assault people.
And we got him under control, got him back in the courthouse, and took him to jail. the two officers were Corporal Brian Strickland, investigator, Paul Gas, he actually assisted. They were able to get Washburn under control without any injuries to themselves, or damage to the body. Our initial concern was videotaping inside the courtroom, and then the bulletproof vest wouldn't afford, there's numerous ways to hide stuff with a bulletproof vest, and wouldn't work with metal detectors, so that's why we couldn't allow him to do that. So that's really in his belligerence and attempting to physically gain entry into a closed courthouse is why we charged him.
That's what you call the sources. Defending you. I'm hurt. I'm also hurt. Now y'all hurt me again. And now y'all hurt me again. And now y'all hurt me again. Now y'all hurt me again.
Why is your property?
Now y'all hurt me again. Don't.
I do apologize, sir. That was the officer.
Yours. Are these yours? Yeah, that's all mine. All right, I'm putting them in. Name the badge number. Name the badge number. That was unlawful. That man pushed me out of the court. Hey man, y'all seen that, right?
Yes, I did.
Y'all seen that, right? Hey, I got another. Yeah, see that assault on me? Live stream, David. Live stream, Mr. Miller. Where are you taking me? What is your wrath?
So, y'all first engaged Washburn because the bulletproof vest wasn't appropriate court attire,
That and
and you couldn't search the property.
could probably search him and metal detection possibly wouldn't work on bulletproof vest.
And when y'all reviewed, or when y'all spoke with higher ups, y'all determined that y'all were not gonna be able to allow him in with the vest.
Right.
But he can come in and put the vest off, correct?
Took the vest off.
And that's no different than someone trying to wear flip-flops in court, correct?
Right, or hats.
Okay. Or hats. Now, where you're standing, that was outside the courtroom, right? The initial
Front porch.
front porch up top.
Yeah.
Yep. Were there other people around?
There were several people out. One was an attorney, I believe from Lexington. One was Grady Kane. There were some folks with Mr. Washburn. There were several people up there waiting to gain entry into the court.
To get into the court? Okay. To handle their case for the day?
Yes, sir.
So once y'all tell him, hey, you can't wear that vest in here, we're not gonna allow you in with the vest, you can take the vest off, you can come in, that sort of thing, is that when, Mr. Washburn throws a fit, starts acting out?
Yes, sir. I told him, he immediately started getting belligerent about that.
I think they're slick. Huh? Huh? Huh?
You can't wear body armor.
Oh, I can. It's perfectly legal. This is Second Amendment.
Then you need to
This is
talk to
Second
your
Amendment.
attorney.
I am my own attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. How
You're
about
not
that?
coming in with a vest.
But I will.
No,
Are you going to block my right to freedom of the press inside the courtroom? Did you swear an oath to the Constitution, sir? Are you violating my oath? Are you violating my oath?
And I told him, I said, well, you may want to talk to your attorney and clarify the court rules with the attorney, and they'll explain it to you. That's why I took my guys back inside.
So y'all had engaged him originally, and then y'all sort of disengaged to go back into the courtroom,
Yes, sir.
and that's when y'all attempted to shut the door?
Yes, sir.
And from that point, that's when Mr. Washburn attempts to pull the door, or that's when he's trying to approach y'all.
He's trying to go in with us.
Yeah, okay. And while this is going on, I mean, once he goes to pull the door open, there's shouting, there's, I believe this is all.
Mr. Washington's storm.
Shouting, and is he yelling, cuss words, or? I believe I watched the video that
Yes, sir, straight back to please, exactly what you're saying. In Strickler's supplement number 11, he put that Washburn even became irate at that point, screaming, "Don't F touch me. You just effing assaulted me. You're effing bitch." And others, other stuff, Second Amendment rights and all that kind of stuff. That's what it's doing, and that was such a commotion. I later found out by people on the other side of the circle mall, and they heard it, and they were watching the commotion. So it had to be pretty loud.
No. And you mean other side of the circle, are we talking about right there where the city hall is, or are we talking about the opposite, even
People
further?
Center.
Where's that?
People Center.
People Center, okay.
About Red Hill Grill, People Center.
So they heard it from nearly a block away.
Yes, sir.
And all this is happening not around 9 o'clock in the morning, right before court starts, while people are waiting to get into the courthouse.
Yes, sir.
So once that takes place, that's when y'all will go to arrest him?
Yes, sir.
And he's not any more cooperative during the arrest than he was taking the vest off, correct?
Right. He actively resisted arrest. They had to take 3 guys, restrained to be under control.
And this is resisting arrest A, this is not assaulting, this is not resisting arrest B, correct?
Right.
Okay. He wasn't trying to punch the officers or anything like that, he was just not cooperating at all during the arrest.
Right.
And you say the body cams, they were destroyed?
The clips to the body cams, when you get them, drop them off. Clips that hold the body cam to the home.
Yeah.
They were broke. The body cams themselves were fine. You know, clips were broken.
So obviously this happened at the county courthouse and certainly in Barnwell County.
Yes, sir.
Please answer any questions that Ms. Alves may have.
You're the lead investigator on this case?
It's my case, yes.
Okay, and so are you familiar with Mr. Washburn's criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
And he doesn't have any violent charges, any violent convictions on his criminal history, does he?
There's a couple resisting arrests, and
Does he have any violent convictions?
I'm not sure I'd have to look at it.
You have time to look at it? Yeah.
I'll have to look.
But that's what the state was stipulating, Mr.
Judge,
You want to look at it, I've got it right here.
There's a domestic violence on it.
But that's not a violent offense under 16168. Because I believe the state is stipulating that he does not have any violent.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Under 16160.
Thank you.
Now, and are you Captain, are you familiar with the laws regarding body armor?
Not right offhand. I'd have to look at it.
are you aware that the law regarding body armor does not, under the laws for body armor, that unless you have a violent offense or are committing a violent offense, a person is allowed to possess body armor, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and there's no administrative order been issued saying that somebody can't wear body armor into the courthouse, has it been by a court administration?
Not by the court administration, I don't think.
All right, and in fact, there were signs in front of the courthouse which specified things you can't wear, like you can't wear flip-flops, you can't wear tank tops, you can't wear hats in the courtroom. There's signs up there that say that.
Yes, ma'am.
But there's no sign saying you can't wear body armor?
No, that I'm aware of.
Okay, and at that time, as far as you know, there was no administrative order issued by any judge that you could not wear body armor. Who did you talk to that said you couldn't wear body armor?
Command staff.
Who?
Here.
The sheriff? Okay. And I just want to go back through what happened that morning. When you first came up and came outside, Mr. Washburn was standing outside, was a group of people, and there were other people standing on the portico. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the two officers were standing outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you asked them to come inside. I think you said because they were new and you wanted to brief them.
Make sure they understood.
So when they first came inside, you left everybody who was standing on the portico standing outside, including Mr. Washburn, and you went in and shut the door.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Washburn wasn't pulling on the door or causing a problem at that time.
No.
And then you came back. Then somebody came and told you that that he had on this body armor.
Yes, Corporal Gant.
Corporal Gant came and said he had this on, and that's when you came back outside and talked to him.
Right.
And you told him he couldn't bring that, he couldn't wear that in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you at any point ever try to tell him to take it off so you could check it?
No, that's why I told him he couldn't come in with the vest and stuff on. And I told him to consult his attorney, whichever attorney he had at that particular time.
And he said he was representing himself.
Right.
Okay. But you didn't make any effort to try to check it yourself to see if you could determine if there was a problem with it or if there was
It was
anything.
my understanding that he could not come in without this.
Okay, but what I'm asking you is, did you ever try to ask him to take the vest off so you could inspect it? And at that point, he was arguing with you about the vest.
We didn't get to that point because when I told him he couldn't, that's when he
You can't wear body armor.
Oh, I can. It's perfectly legal. This is Second Amendment.
Then you need to talk to
Second
your
Amendment.
attorney.
I am my own attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, how
You're
about
not
that?
coming in with a vest.
But I will.
No,
Are you going to block my right to freedom of the press inside the courtroom? Did you swear an oath to the Constitution, sir? Are you violating my oath? Are you violating my oath?
started dropping up on him, trying to get him pointed.
Really? Have you seen the video on this? Because the F-bombs and the cursing didn't start until after the door was shut the second time, according to the video or so.
Right. But what you're saying was,
No, I'm talking about before the door shut the second time. After you told him he couldn't come in with the body armor, before the door shut. He wasn't cursing at that point. He was just arguing about wearing.
and there was no reason to search him that for because the courthouse wasn't open and we weren't allowing people in.
That's right. That's right. All right, so you told him he couldn't wear it. He's disputing that with you. You went back inside. And yes, you went back inside. You just said, mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am, we
Yes,
went back
okay,
inside
thanks.
and talked.
And then the other two officers followed you back inside.
Yes.
And then, but I want to clarify, there's no body cam from any of the police officers who are out there, is there?
No, ma'am.
The only body cam video we have is the video that Mr. Washburn was taking.
That's correct.
Okay. And so, as y'all were going back inside, you went inside first, and then I believe the second deputy, I don't remember his name. Strickler, thank you, followed you, and then Deputy Brown was last.
Yes, ma'am.
And Deputy Brown was trying to shut the door, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
And Deputy Brown actually pushed Mr. Washburn.
Mr. Washburn was trying to get in. He was on the threshold of the door, trying to get in the door, so Brown pushed him back so he could close the
All
door
right.
security.
I want to clarify, he didn't actually step foot into the threshold, he was standing in front of the door.
Come on, guys.
Huh? Did you swear an oath to the Constitution? Are you going to violate my oath today? Are you going to violate me today? Is that what's going on here, sir?
Step back. Step back.
Don't fucking push me, bitch.
I believe he was, because you have to step up on that first step on the porch.
He wasn't on the step, was he, because y'all were standing on the steps. He was standing below the step. You were in the courtroom. So Deputy Brown was trying to shut the door and he pushed Mr. Washburn back.
Right.
Okay? And then he shut the door.
Yes,
And at that point, that is when Mr. Washburn, as you say, went ballistic.
yeah, he kept pulling on,
And
trying to
he
get
was,
the door.
and he was yelling about, "You assaulted me." I believe you just quoted from Deputy Strickler's report, his supplemental. He was yelling, "You assaulted me." He wanted something done about the assault. He's yelling F-bombs, and he's directing his comments at the police officers in the courtroom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's fair.
And at that point, when he's out doing all this yelling outside, that's when you decided to come back out and arrest him
Yes, ma'am.
for disorderly conduct,
Breaches these.
for breach of peace. And when you came out the door, you grabbed him,
I attempted to, and he pulled away from me.
and then the two deputies, Strickler and Brown, then took him straight to the ground.
I think Deputy Brown Corporal Brown grabbed me first, and then they took both of them and gave them on the ground to keep the security.
And he was struggling and trying to pull away.
You just fucking assaulted me, bitch. On fucking film, live stream. You're in my fucking courthouse. Mine. You just fucking assaulted me. You just assaulted me. What's your fucking name? Huh? What's your fucking name? Huh? That man just assaulted me in your presence. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. This is illegal. 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 This is illegal.
But y'all didn't tell him he was under arrest, you just came out and grabbed him.
Deputy Brown is the one, I believe, told him he was under arrest.
At what point?
While he was trying to get him under control.
While he was already on the ground struggling.
Believe so.
Judge, I don't have any further questions. I do have some questions.
Yes, ma'am?
Judge, I have a couple follow-up.
Yes, sir.
As far as Deputy Brown standing inside the courtroom, correct? He's attempting to shut the door.
Yes.
And to clarify the issue, however, whichever way Mr. Washburn was positioned at that time did not allow Deputy Brown to shut the door without physically removing him from
He had to push
the
him back
area
to
of
get
the door swinging shut.
Yeah.
But he did not step out, I don't think he stepped outside the courtroom when he, pushed the defendant back, correct?
I don't believe.
It was reaching through the doorway. Okay. Judge, I think that's all from the state.
Judge, I would have one follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am?
Well, actually, it might be a couple, but when Deputy Brown pushed Mr. Washburn, I want to just clarify what the push was. It wasn't a two-handed shoving back. It was more, he told him step back so he could shut the door. More of a put his hand in the middle of his chest and told him to step back so he could shut the door.
You know how big Brown is? Brown's a big guy. He took him one hand to push him back, no,
so he can close the door. And then Brown stepped in the courtroom and that was the end of it, until the yelling started.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Judge,
No.
Judge, I do have some motions.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, at this point, we have Mr. Washburn, who obviously has been required to appear in court on this particular day, who did get there and was waiting his turn to go in. When the officers came out the first time, when Captain Johnson came out the first time, and then had the officers come into the courtroom, and they shut the door, there was no problem. While Mr. Washburn, they said they saw Mr. Washburn out there, he was doing his filming, he was talking to people. There wasn't a problem even though the door was shut.
General session, right? General session, right?
Yeah, it's general session, yeah.
They gonna just call you or?
I have no idea, but I just got a letter, they said, be here at the 10th, or we'll arrest you. So I'm here under duress and threat of arrest.
I ain't even get no letter.
You hear this, folks? That's not equal protection under the law. You hear this, folks? That's not equal protection.
I was in jail, and then my people were calling the police defender and shit, and they said they heard I got caught on the charge.
Heard.
And then I called them.
You hear this, folks?
What they call the clerk of goddamn court?
Yeah, clerk of court.
I'm calling the clerk of court, trying to get my court date. She talks like, I don't know. I'm looking like, what the fuck?
And we are live streaming, folks. Do you hear what are they doing down here in Barnwell, South Carolina? They think they're slick, yo. Literally think they're slick.
Then they came out the second time telling me he couldn't wear his jacket into the courtroom. I would just point, I mean, the law is clear. I mean, there's a statute, 6-3-1085, which the officer stated that, where he confirmed that it says that a person, other than a person who has been convicted of a violent crime as defined in 16-160, it's not illegal to own, purchase, or possess body armor. So, I mean, unless, of course, there's other exceptions, such as you can't have it while you're committing a violent offense, which does not apply here. But Mr. Washburn does not have a violent conviction on his record, so he is allowed to possess body armor. Mr. While there probably will be some type of court administration order, I'm certain, or some type of sign up saying you can't wear it in the courtroom, on this particular day, there was no sign saying you could not wear body armor into the courtroom. Mr. Washburn was told that. He was disputing that with the officers. There was no attempt to try to accommodate him with this matter. There was no attempt to try to search it. And at that point, as Captain stated, the courtroom wasn't even open, so they hadn't even started going through security yet. So they hadn't even made an effort to try to check, see if they could check the body armor to determine whether it would be safe for him to wear it in. Mr. Washburn was arguing with the officer because he was being denied something which the law allows him to do. While he was disputing this issue, and there's no testimony that was a violent issue, he was just disputing and arguing about how come he can't do something that the law allows him to do. That's when the officers went back in the courtroom, and instead of just walking back in the courtroom, they could have told him to step back. That's when the deputy put his hand and pushed him back. We're not trying to say it was a forceful pushing, and I mean, and what he said, all he did was push him back so that he could shut the door. It is at that point, after he got pushed back, that Mr. Washburn then started to curse and yell, and as Captain testified, those cursing and yelling was directed toward the police. He was yelling about being assaulted because what he felt the deputy had done was an assault. He was yelling about how that happened, and he was cursing about that, and those words were directed not at the other people on the portico. They weren't directed at the public in general. They were directed at the police for what he felt was an assault, and as testimony was, he clearly said he was assaulted. When the officers came back outside, they immediately started to grab him. He was not told he was under arrest. He's now yelling his outrage about being assaulted, and he's now being grabbed and thrown on the ground. He's not told he's under arrest until after he's already on the ground, struggling with the officers, at which point their body cams come off. There's a lot here, Judge. First, the question is whether or not this is he's charged with aggravated breach of peace. The question is, number one, whether there's even a breach of peace been occurred. There is case law. I have the cases if Your Honor wants to look at them, and I can hand them to the state. There are two cases that I'm gonna refer to. In the interest of Jeremiah W., which is a Supreme Court case, out of South Carolina, and State versus Perkins, which are two cases that talk about when individuals are upset with the police and they make they make comments, raise their voice, even curse at the police. In Jeremiah W., he even cursed at the police when they were asking him to do something, and he was charged with breach of peace. The Supreme Court reversed his conviction for breach of peace. There is no breach of peace using profanity toward the police when you're arguing with the police, because the police are expected to be held to a higher standard and to have more of a thick skin than the average citizen. So there is no profanity unless you are using fighting words. At no point was there any testimony that Mr. Washburn used any type of fighting words toward the police. Yeah, he used profanity. They said he used F-bombs. We're not denying that. But all those comments were directed toward the police for what he felt was an assault by Deputy Brown. Also, Your Honor, so, I mean, I don't think the state can support a breach of the peace. Also, where's the aggravation? None of this, he was already standing outside. There was no problem with anything until the assault. Where's the aggravation? In order to have some type of aggravation, there have to be aggravating circumstances. In one case that I found, it talks about this. The problem we have here is this is a very vague statute. It's pretty much anything goes, because it's so broad, it's so vague, it's so broad that anything goes. But there are cases where they had to consider whether or not a breach of the peace is aggravating. The only case I could find, it was this case called State versus Sims, and I'll hand him to this solicitor in case he wants to look at it.
You said State versus Sims?
State versus Sims. That is a case where the person was actually convicted of disorderly conduct and aggravated breach of the peace. But in that situation, that person was actually doing an act that was likely to inspire violence in another person, and that's the only factor that they could really find that the courts considered about whether or not a breach of the peace is aggravating. In this situation, and then I'll just go into the details in Sims. In Sims, it was a college football game. There was some issues between the members of the opposing supporters for the opposing teams, and the person actually he started a fight. He started a dispute that wound up causing the death of the other person. They were engaged. It was Gamecocks versus Alabama, and so they were fighting about whoever won the game. And in that situation, they found that the person was trying to incite other people to violence, and that's what they found aggravating in that. In this situation, we don't have that. We have somebody who is cursing at the police over a wrong that they felt has been done to them. Their comments were directed directly at the police, not at anybody else. Wasn't telling anybody, come, let's call the justice. He wasn't telling his friends to do anything. He was just cursing and yelling. I think at most, if you find breach of peace, which I don't think there is since the comments were directed toward the police, and both cases that I cited talk about you must have fighting words, and in this situation, there weren't any. So I don't see where the aggravation comes in. Judge, as to the resisting arrest, at the time that the officers came back outside, Mr. Washburn could have believed that he was within his rights to yell at the police, even to curse at the police, because there is state case law that says you can do that if you're upset with the police. I mean, I know it's not right to perhaps yell at people, but unfortunately, the police have to have a thicker skin based on their dealings with the public, and the fact that you use profanity is not sufficient unless there's fighting words. He wasn't using those. He felt he was in his rights. He's within his rights to wear body armor. So he could not have known that they were intending to arrest him at that time until the deputy tells him that once he's already on the ground, having resisted what he's feeling is an unlawful assault and an unlawful arrest by the officers. So I don't see where he resisted arrest. They were able to get him under control after he's already on the ground, after he's already struggling with the officers. And that brings us to the next the next two charges of malicious injury to property. Judge, for the malicious injury to property, they're saying that during the struggle for the resisting arrest, he knocked off the cameras for two officers who he was struggling with and caused the clips to break on the cameras, and for that reason he's being charged with malicious injury to property. Judge, there is, while I am not conceding that this was a resisting arrest, if he was in fact intending to resist arrest and was resisting arrest, I don't see how the state can establish that he then formed the intent to damage the state's property or the officer's property. There is a case that is State versus Bryant, which I got it. I'll hand that to the state as well. State versus Bryant, that is a case where a person was being arrested, attempted to assault the police officer, missed and damaged the police car. They were convicted. The Supreme Court overturned the conviction for malicious property because in order to have malicious injury to property, there has to be an intent to actually damage the property. You can't just have an intent to harm a person, miss, and then damage the property. You actually have to have an intent to damage the property. There's no transferred intent. Now, if you try to swing on one person and then hit another person, well, there's a transferred intent. You're going to jail for potentially attempt on one person and hitting the other person. But you can't have that same transferred intent from a person to property. So while I am not conceding on the resisting arrest, if you find that he was in fact resisting arrest and that the cameras broke during the resisting arrest, they can't charge him with malicious injury to property because there was no willful, malicious, intentional act to damage the body cams. In that situation, there was an attempt to resist arrest. And if during that situation the body cams get damaged, there's no intent to actually damage the body cams. That would just be to resist arrest. So you can't do both. You can't have both. And like I said, in this particular case, this person was being arrested, was fighting with the officer, and damaged the police car. And they said that there was no intent to damage the police car. The damage was that the police car just happened to get arrested while he was assaulting the officer. He was convicted of the assault on the officer, but they overturned the malicious injury. So for those reasons, based on those case law, and I can hand Your Honor up the cases if you want to take a look. But for those reasons I've stated, I don't think that the state has established aggravated breach of the peace. I don't think they've established even regular breach of the peace. They have not established resisting arrest. They have definitely not established malicious injury to property on either one of those two charges, and I move that all the charges be dismissed against Mr. Washburn. And I will hand you up the cases that I cited.
Yes, ma'am. You can proceed if you'd like to.
I just note that Jeremiah W., I think I only have one copy of that case. There is some writing on the bottom of it to show us what's going on. It says no BOP for family officer.
Thank you. Well, anything from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Judge, again, and obviously, breach of the peace is a very broad statute, and that was obviously written that way by the legislature for a reason. Again, we're here today. We're not here to try the case. We are here for probable cause, very low bar. As far as breach of the peace, Judge, breach of the peace, how aggravated. I think the initial contact of this essentially this wanting to validate, by the defense, validating the defendant's right to be upset because law enforcement isn't going to allow him in with his bulletproof vest. That statute is not absolute. There's a statute that says you can carry guns. There's a statute that says you can carry this and that. It doesn't say you can carry it anywhere in this state unless you're law enforcement or a solicitor or recently public defenders. So it's not absolute. Second of all, it's the clerk's courthouse. It's the judge's courtroom. And if they're not going to allow someone in the courtroom that is going to be a disturbance to others or does not fit appropriate court attire, no different than a hat, flip-flops. There's been multiple instances where they're not allowed in because of those things. So law enforcement here engaging the defendant up front is them saying, hey, we haven't even started yet, but we ain't going to let you in with a bulletproof vest. They tried to cut it off at the head. That didn't work. There was some sort of being upset at that point, which law enforcement at that point disengaged. They disengaged because they knew what the defendant was wanting. He was wanting a rise out of law enforcement. They disengaged. They go to get inside to regroup. And at that point, them disengaging is not enough because the defendant wanted to argue. He wanted to cause some sort of disturbance because of his constitutional rights. When Deputy Brown is trying to shut the door, he's unable to shut the door. He's standing inside the courtroom. He's not doing it two-handed. He is trying to simply shut the door, and this defendant is still being uncooperative for some reason, thinking that he's entitled to talk to the officers while they're inside of the courthouse when it's not open, when he has no such right. He wasn't allowed in there before 9 o'clock. It wasn't 9 o'clock yet. It wasn't when they opened the doors yet. So they tried to go on and tell him before he's not allowed to do that. He doesn't like that as an answer. From that point, when they go to push him, that's when he loses it. He loses it because he felt he was entitled to follow them or at least stand in the doorway to yell or argue his rights. That right there, all that leading up to that is breaching the peace. But the breach of the peace, it is so loud, so aggravated that not only are there people standing up and down the stairs, but there's people across the way, almost a block away at the People's Sentinel that can hear this going on. There's people in public, numerous people, that can't even come to the courtroom, wait for court, wait for their case to be called, without having this kind of commotion going on right outside or right in the front door of the courthouse. They cannot come to court peacefully because of this defendant. So much that people across the street, or a block away, other side of the circle, is hearing this commotion going on too. And as far as his right to be able to cuss out the police, again, sure, you can cuss out a policeman if you wanted to. It's no different than the possessing a gun or the bulletproof vest. It depends on the location and the place. And in this place, he thinks that he apparently has the right to cuss out law enforcement in front of everybody else, causing a commotion. There's lawyers out there. There's people that are just trying to wait to do their job that day or come to court because they were summoned to court. They can't do that peacefully. That's high and aggravated there. These fighting words, they say there's no fighting words. I don't know what else is supposed to be fighting words other than dropping the F-bomb multiple times, saying the B word multiple times, all to be able to what? In this whole circumstance, he is trying to get a rise out of law enforcement. And what was law enforcement's first response? Tell them what was right, what was wrong, what couldn't happen, and then they disengaged. And that disengagement was what set the defendant off. Because he was not going to take that for an answer. Because that's not the answer he wanted. He wanted them to engage. He wanted to cause the commotion. So, after he is trying to get in the way of them shutting the door, and after he has caused all this commotion, that's when they go to arrest him. He should certainly think that it is reasonable that he was under arrest after doing all this. No one else in this situation was cussing out the police, cussing out deputies, whoever it was during this time. It was only him. So it was reasonable for him to think that he was under arrest, which is, yes, it is very easy to tell a resisting arrest when law enforcement says at the time, all right, you're under arrest, and they resist. But if it's also, you know you're under arrest because of the actions you just took, and you're still trying to resist, and that makes sense because if someone's trying to resist arrest and you're trying to arrest them, how many officers are going to think, crap, while I'm wrestling with this guy on the ground to make sure he doesn't get after my gun or whatever it be, I also need to say the words, you're under arrest. It doesn't make sense. That's not what the statute was intended for. And as far as the malicious injury during this whole ordeal, the body cams get destroyed. Whatever it was, I believe the clip is destroyed. They're thrown way off the ground. I think they ended up, from the testimony, they ended up off the balcony. So, Judge, again, we're not here to try the case. We're here for probable cause. We would ask that the case be bound over.
Judge, may I respond briefly?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Judge, the solicitor's comments about, and he likened the situation as somebody not being able to bring a gun in the courtroom. But the laws we have clearly say you can't bring a gun into a courthouse. And there are signs saying you can't bring a gun into the courthouse. And it's obvious. Anybody should know you don't bring a gun into the courthouse. But in this situation, Mr. Washburn was allowed, under the law, to wear a body armor. There's nothing in the law that says you can't bring it into the courthouse. And we're not here for body armor because the issues and the problems and the cursing didn't start when he was told about the body armor. That was when he was disputing the statements that he couldn't wear it with the officers. But the problem started after the officer put his hand on him and pushed him back. Whether the officer was right or wrong, Mr. Washburn was upset about that, and he was hollering about being assaulted. He never made any comments to anybody else. As the captain stated, all of the comments were directed toward the police regarding the assault that he felt had happened to him by Officer Brown. Judge, in this situation, even if you find that there is a disorderly conduct for Mr. Washburn's behavior on the portico, does not aggravate it. There wasn't any fighting words used. There wasn't any intent to incite a riot. And this is the vaguest statute ever. There's no definition of it. But as I said, the only case that I could find where they even talked about what to consider is the factors that they talked about the factor to consider, and the fact that in that particular case there was an inciting of as I said, it was a Gamecock versus Alabama game, so we know how hostile that would have gone depending on who won or lost. But there was an attempt to incite others to violence. In this situation, we don't have that. So even if you find there was a breach of peace, which I don't concede, but there's nothing showing it was aggravated. And Judge, as to the resisting, you're going to have to make your determination on that based on my previous arguments and what the solicitor said in the testimony. But there's a case, State versus Bryant, which I think is 100% on point, the same as this. That person was being arrested. They were fighting with the officer. They got charged with assaulting the officer and damaging the police car. The Supreme Court reversed the conviction for damaging the police car because there was no intent to do that while they were fighting with the officer. And in this situation, as I said, once again, while I do not concede the resisting arrest charge, if you find that that he was resisting arrest, then there's no way that, I don't think you could find that he intended to damage the body cams, because that were damaged during the struggle with the officers during the resisting arrest.
Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so at this time, with the charges that we're looking, I am going to bound over resisting, breach of peace high and aggravated, and dismiss the malicious damage.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Captain.
Can I get a copy of this video too?
You need to put it in writing.
Ready?
Yes,
I'll
sir.
send you an email and then I still got to
Yes,
pick
sir.
up the flashlight.
That's the only
If you
one.
could put it-
I just, I'll take it.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
Judge, I'll take it.